Okay, so good morning everyone and good evening to those who are in the US. So today is Monday in the US and Tuesday for us here in Manila. And every Monday we have our doctor's training call. And for today we'll be having no other than Dr. Arle Imperio, who would be discussing on the 5 mechanisms of homeostasis to prevent diabetic complications. Now, joining us also today, we have Dr. Mario Ramirez. Good morning, Dr. Mario Ramirez.
Good evening, America. Good morning, Asia. So I look forward to a fruitful discussion on the 5 mechanisms of homeostasis that is being triggered by the use of dietary nucleotide supplementation. So, my dear friends, in the past weeks, we had been discussing about, let's say, glucose control. We had been discussing about diabetes, for example. And so this could be probably the summary of our knowledge on normal sugar control or glucose. But I will be focusing on the 5 mechanisms that nucleotide supplementation can help our body prevent the complications related to diabetes. So be ready to take notes. This will be a brief lecture. I will be discussing it direct to the point, and I'll be showing you some pictures and give you some ideas. So the main idea here is to realize that through dietary supplementation, it is possible that we will be helping any person who might be having some challenges on diabetes. So the 5 mechanisms of homeostatic control or homeostasis to prevent the complications related to diabetes. Okay, so we will have to state a disclaimer that this presentation is for private training and not for public dissemination. And there are no medical claims because they are for educational and illustration purposes. There is no attempt to cure, diagnose, treat, or even prevent disease. Health statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. If one has a medical condition, always seek the services of your attending physician. And I will be featuring here a journal, and this is a third-party research, and it is not endorsed by the manufacturer Unirigen, the manufacturer of Imorigen, nor by our company Forever Healthy Products LLC or any of the medical team. It is up to the recipient to decide and find its relevance in their life. And images used are credited to the owners and are used for educational purposes alone and not for commercial, let's say, purpose. Okay, so the 5 homeostatic functions that may help prevent diabetic complications. Formally, my name is Arle and commonly called as Dr. Arle Imperio MD. Okay, diabetes is a big problem worldwide. There are 30 million people who have diabetes. So for every 10 people that we see, 1 may be diabetic. And for every 4 people who are diabetic, 1 out of 4 do not know that they have this problem, but they have already the challenge. And the good news is that diabetes can be treated, and the role of diet and exercise is, let's say, contributory to its control. Next slide, please, Francis. So, as a review, the question is, what is diabetes? Diabetes actually is a condition where the sugar level or glucose is beyond the accepted value or normal. That's why if you will look at, let's say, left portion of the slide, we measure the amount of glucose in the blood because that is where we are able to determine if one is diabetic. And even though without this blood testing, there are some symptoms that will give us an idea if we have diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, which is related to our lifestyle. As we get older, the tendency is we might be diabetic. That is type 2. There is a high elevation of sugar, and insulin may be normal. But type 1, just as a review, is there is lack of insulin. Okay, so this is type 2. So notice there is a constant hunger, there is frequent urination, and then there is numbness in the feet and unexplained weight loss. There can be fungal infection, blurred vision, and slow healing of wounds. So if one has any of these signs or symptom, one has to immediately seek, let's say, medical help. Next slide, please. Okay, so we continue with its presentation to realize the importance of diabetes. As we mentioned a while ago, 30 million, and this is data in America, where there are they already have diabetes, and then diabetes contributes 30%. 30% of them contributes to the stroke, and 40% on heart attacks, 50% on kidneys, 70% may lead to amputation. So you see, practically it will involve many organs of the body, vital organs like the heart, the brain, the kidney. That's why it's not a joke to have diabetes, and we have to take action now. And just also as a review, these are the risk factors and warning signs. And the risk factors and warning signs are unhealthy diet. That's why we have to take note of our food. Excess weight, so we have to maintain our ideal body weight. Family history, it is transmissible or inherited through our genes. And then as we get older, the tendency is we move towards type 2 diabetes, especially if one is smoking, it will be, let's say, accelerated. The major complications of diabetes can be classified as microvascular or macrovascular. Vascular means it's related to the circulation, to the blood vessels. The macro are the large blood vessels. So basically, this is the mechanism leading to brain, like stroke, heart attack, and the extremities. However, the smaller blood vessels, like the blood vessels in the eye, the organs, the nerves, they will be affected. So we call this microvascular. So if you look at the right side of the diagram as a review, see the complications of diabetes. It's not a joke. The number one cause of mortality or death is heart attack, and diabetes is an important role. And then number two is brain attack or stroke. And then you can see all the other, let's say, complications like in the kidney, the diabetic foot, glaucoma, that's in the eyes. It can lead to blindness. It will accelerate cataract formation. And don't be afraid that we'll be focusing on how we can deal with this. So this is another way, in a more animated illustration on what are the signs and symptoms of diabetes, which we have already covered. It's the same story, right? And okay, let's focus on this on a little bit. So look at the symptoms like fatigue. Can dietary nucleotides help in this problem? Fatigability or feeling tired most of the time. And we know that one of the mechanisms or benefit of dietary nucleotide supplementation is to increase body energy, right? Okay. And then all the other problems related to the complications, that's where dietary nucleotides can support, acting at the molecular level and at the DNA level. So we're doing a review so that we will realize how dietary nucleotides can contribute. So we now focus on diabetes prevention. And then from here, we will be moving very fast. And this is already a summary of the challenge of diabetes. So the signs and symptoms, the person would always feel hungry. And then there is unexplained weight loss. There is numb and tingling of the hands and feet and frequent urination. And take note that even the sexual function is affected, sexual disorder, and extreme fatigue. That's why one is to check his sugar regularly. And when there is high level of sugar in the bloodstream, it will suck out the liquid from the cell. That's why the person would feel thirsty, right? And since there is more liquid in the bloodstream, there will be more frequent, let's say, urination. So you see, that's the basic problem when the sugar level goes up. And then it can lead to complications like peripheral neuropathy or delay in wound healing, especially in the lower limbs. And among female, fungal infection like candida seems to be more frequent. And then at the right lower portion of the diagram, this is a summary on how to, let's say, deal with diabetes. Basically, the mode of treatment involves three major components. The first is get proper medication to bring the sugar down to normal levels. So it's medical or medication. The next level is to eat properly. We call it a diabetic diet because what we eat eventually becomes glucose or sugar. And then number three is exercise, because when we exercise, we burn the sugar. And then when we eat properly, we don't, let's say, increase the sugar level. And when the sugar level is high, then we bring it down to normal through proper medication. So it's medication, it's nutrition, and it's exercise. And dietary nucleotides come into the area of, let's say, nutrition. So these are the three major components that the doctor has to address to with the diligent cooperation of the patient in order to prevent the complications of diabetes. How to be more healthy even when one is diabetic. So basically, we mentioned the formula. It is nutrition. So we have to eat in a healthier way, be active, and that's where the exercise comes in. We monitor our sugar level and then take the medications properly as given by the doctor. And all of these major elements will reduce the risk and, let's say, development of the complications brought by diabetes. So that's the main idea, right? You got it? So we have a review of the diabetic problem. And now we'll be focusing on the homeostatic mechanisms on how, let's say, dietary nucleotides can help with the prevention of diabetic complications. Okay, so we mentioned homeostasis. What is the main idea of homeostasis? The main idea of homeostasis is body balance, where everything is put into in a well-coordinated way. That is an inbuilt mechanism. In fact, this is the first lesson being taught in the College of Medicine under the subject of physiology. So the main idea is balance. It's not only the sugar that has to be balanced. It's practically almost every functional part of the body. That's why notice in homeostasis, if you talk about the sugar level, if too much sugar, that's hyperglycemia. If you have low sugar, that is hypoglycemia. Both are not encouraged. Both are medical problems. Too high sugar, too low sugar. So it has to be somewhere in between, right? We call it the normal level of sugar, let's say, amount. So the idea there is homeostasis, right? That's why our topic today is how, let's say, 5 homeostatic mechanisms can lead to the control of blood sugar and the body, and even prevent the complications of diabetes if you are diabetic. Okay, so it's the same story. It's just to emphasize homeostasis, right? Or balance or internal control. I mentioned a while ago, glucose homeostasis. Glucose is the sugar level. Take note, every food item that we eat becomes glucose. But the higher level of glucose release or elevation would come from, let's say, fats. The next would be carbohydrates, and the least would be from proteins. So can you see the diagram where one should have the level at the middle level? So if it goes up or it goes down, it's like a seesaw. That is where the body does everything to put the balance in control. And if you will study each component of the diagram carefully, it is showing the different ways on how the body does it. But the idea is that homeostasis has to be supported, especially in glucose or sugar body balance, or glucose homeostasis. Okay, so it's the same story, right? But just briefly, take note, there are vital organs that are involved. You can see the pancreas, right? You can see the liver. Okay, so they are involved in the balance of homeostasis. Okay, so here is homeostatic or homeostasis function number 1. ATP body energy. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the natural biochemical electrical energy of the body. If we lack ATP, we're dead, right? But take note, if you look at the structure of ATP at the at the right side, colored fuchsia, right? That's adenine. So notice adenine is part of the structure of ATP leading to adenosine triphosphate, right? You can see the phosphate group. There are 3. That's why triphosphate. Okay. So ATP is adenosine triphosphate. And this is where the body energy is created. But adenine is important. And adenine is one of the nitrogen base that is present in the Imorigen formula. In fact, if you would study the Imorigen formula closely, it is it's in more amounts. So you have guanine, cytosine, right? Thymine, adenine. So that's where nucleotide supplementation can help, because one of the manifestations of diabetes is that the person starts to weaken. He easily gets tired. There is fatigability. So one way to neutralize that is to generate ATP body production. So that is homeostasis function number 1. And it will not only benefit the person with diabetes, it will actually benefit the entire body, right? Because the body needs the energy level. Just to show the structure of adenosine triphosphate, right? Notice the up left side from your point of view, adenosine triphosphate is one of the most important compounds that cells use to store and release energy. And then look at the biochemical structure. Take note where adenine is present, right? Okay, so homeostasis function number 2. When one is diabetic, he is exposed to many risk factors. It's very important that if one is diabetic, his immune system is enhanced, because it opens the body to many health risks. And one of them is that a virus, a bacteria like Pneumococcus pneumoniae can lead to pneumonia, and both can kill the patient. That's why it's very important, if one is diabetic, his immune system is well supported. Good news, dietary supplementation has been found to support body immunity, right? So that is homeostasis function number 2. Okay, just a review on the body's ability to cope with challenges against itself. So we have what you call adaptive immunity. It will adjust. So adaptive immunity will support natural immunity, and then it will also support artificially acquired immunity, right? So that's how important the immune system support is. Okay, so just to look at the outline, especially on the left side. So immunity is adaptive, and then innate, okay? And then under adaptive, there is natural and artificial. Don't bother, just to show you that it has a process on how it protects the body. Homeostasis function number 3 is regeneration, which is one of the observed benefit of nucleotide supplementation. And we have discussed in the past, let's say the documentation, an in vivo study where there was regeneration of the ileal portion of the small intestines, right? Because when one is diabetic, it can lead to the acceleration of organ degeneration. And therefore, we have to support the homeostatic function that promotes regeneration. Next slide, please, Francis. Okay, an example of regeneration is wound healing. And wound healing is one of the major benefits of dietary nucleotide supplementation. And Dr. Mario, in one of his lectures, as an orthopedic surgeon, has given a good lecture on the, let's say, wound healing. I showed this slide just to emphasize that when one would have, let's say, a wound, just be sure that the wound is clean. The body will automatically lead to wound healing. And that is homeostasis, right? And if you look at these slides more carefully, it just shows the complicated way on how the body does that. But it's automatic. That's why, and it is related to nucleotide supplementation. That's why wound healing is one of the major benefits. And wound healing leads through regeneration by creating new cells to repair the wound. Okay, next slide, please, Francis. Okay, homeostatic function number 4 is memory. And what you now see in the slides here are the different cells in the brain, the microglia, right? And then you will see, let's say, the circle in the middle, that's the nucleus. And we know that inside the nucleus is the chromosome. Inside the chromosome is the DNA and the nucleotide, right? When the brain cells are well supported, it will support memory because we want to live as long as possible. And when we live long, let's say at 80 and above, one of the possible problems is that the brain cells start to weaken, and it can lead to senile dementia or even into memory loss. And our goal is to live as long as we can. And diabetes will shorten one's life. And if one's life is longer, it may affect the brain, leading to poor memory loss or senile dementia. Well, that's why we have now to, let's say, support the function of the brain cells as early as possible. And good news, there are already initial evidence showing that dietary nucleotide supports, let's say, brain function. Okay, so I show this slide just to show you that in each cell in the brain, there is the nucleus, and inside the nucleus, as we have always emphasized in our one-page presentation, that it has the chromosome, the DNA, and the nucleotides. Okay, so this is probably the bonus everybody might be interested in. But what I would like you to emphasize is that the Immunogen formula has the L-arginine as one of the 20 amino acids. And L-arginine would lead to the production of nitric oxide, which will enhance the circulation into the vital organs of the body because it's a messengerial, let's say, vasodilator. So it will benefit the heart, the brain, the kidney, the liver, all organs, especially the organs related to sexual function. That's why if you look at the right side, under the problem of sexual dysfunction, and if you would look at the factors leading to that at the upper left portion, take note, diabetes is one of the risk factors. That's why it's connected, right? So we know that one of the effects of diabetes would be less sexual function. And so we have to support the ability of the body through homeostasis to enhance, let's say, sexual health. And if you would look at the different factors, there are many of them. All of them can lead to sexual dysfunction. So that's it, my dear friends. We have briefly made a review of the 5 proven, let's say, homeostatic function that will support and help prevent the complications attendant to diabetes. Okay, so just to give an idea how it can be connected with true circulation, you now have at the upper left the flaxseed versus the erect penis, right? And then if you will compare it with the erect penis, you will take note of the blood vessels, the musculature, and leading to erection. So notice, if you would look closely, they look different, right? There is less, let's say, arteries, and therefore there is less blood flow. And that's the reason why diabetes can lead to erectile dysfunction. Okay, so after having reviewed the 5 homeostatic functions, the next question would be, okay, how is it that the dietary nucleotides can help prevent the complications of diabetes? Where's the evidence? And the recent evidence that I can feature today is this journal that was released in 2019. Take note that the Imorigen formula has been patented in 1983 in the Czech Republic. And that's more than 30 years ago, right? It involved the collaboration of top scientists, immunologists in Czech Republic, like Peter Sima is one of them, Dr. Rector is one of them, and many more. But these are recent scientists, Clara Kovalkova and Alice Machela, and they are consultants of the military establishment in Czech Republic. So they made a review on Imorigen. And take note of the title itself, A Short History of Imorigen, an original tissue extract. So that is a technical description of Imorigen made by 2 recent modern scientists. If you happen to check my Facebook and you can see that beside me is a beautiful lady, that is Clara Kovalkova. So when Clara Kovalkova, Dr. Clara Kovalkova, and Dr. Alice Machel visited the Philippines a few years ago, we had the rare chance where doctors and other, let's say, scientists had the chance to interact and get a direct, let's say, review from these 2 scientists. And that was sponsored by, through the effort of Dr. Leon Katz. So take note, Imorigen is a unique dietary supplement that was developed by leading Czech immunologists. Wow, that's a very heavy and powerful statement. First, it is a supplement. It's dietary. It's not a drug, right? But it has been developed by scientists, and not only scientists, but immunologists. And then at the lower portion of the abstract or summary, notice the major benefits that has been mentioned. Cellular immunity, right? And we mentioned that as one of the homeostatic function. Energy, and that's where the ATP production comes in. Regeneration, right? And that's where the organs can be repaired. Wound healing. Take note, surgeries are being conducted every day in every hospital. This alone will be useful to them. If one will undergo surgery, he has to take the Imorigen formula. It would help, as stated by the scientists. Endocrine gland repaired. Endocrine, that's where diabetes comes in, because diabetes is a problem in sugar control, and the endocrine glands are involved, right? And then intestinal integrity. This is where absorption comes in the small intestines, right? Memory enhancement, right? Okay, and anti-tumor effects. So notice this did come from me. This is not hype. This is not just like, let's say, some comments, let's say, stated by a health advocate. No, this is coming from a research journal, let's say, authored by scientists in Czech Republic who are currently involved in the study of, let's say, dietary supplements like Imorigen. And take note of the title, A Short History of Imorigen, an original. Original means it's the first one. Tissue extract. And what are the benefits? We mentioned the major benefits, and it's coming from this scientist. This is what we were referring to as third-party literature, because they are not in any way connected with the manufacturer of Imorigen, nor are they also connected with Forever Healthy LLC or the medical team. They are independent third-party people or resources. That's why they are free to state what they want to say as what they found, right? So that's the main idea. So there is proof, my dear friends, that the 5 mechanisms of homeostasis to support the body, especially in sugar control or glucose control, leading to the possible prevention of diabetic complications. It is based on this research, okay? So we will now briefly look at some of the items of the journal, but we already mentioned the main focus. Okay, so notice the company Unirigen, okay, prepared a new batch of the bovine tissue extract, okay, under the original formula, and then renamed as Imorigen, because research on the components of Imorigen started as early as in the 1950s, and then they reviewed it, enhanced it, and it's now Imorigen. Okay, and then they and Imorigen is useful in let's say, that's why they re-evaluate the biological effects of Imorigen. And then one of the reports is titled as Protective and Immunomodulative Influence of Supplementing DNA, Comparing of Clinical Testing and Experimental Model. Okay, and this was sponsored. They got a grant from the World Health Organization, and it was given to the Health Ministry. It's like the Department of Health of the entire country of the Czech Republic. So notice Imorigen is not an ordinary food supplement. It is one of the food supplements that has been well studied, not only by one or few individuals, but a collaboration of top research and medical institutions up to the highest level, the Department of Health, where they made a report with the support of the World Health Organization that it has a protective immunomodulative, let's say, influence. Okay, that is a heavy statement, my dear friends, and printed in a research journal. So we are featuring the different items of the journal. If you would like to get a copy of this journal, simply search Imorigen Research in Google and you can download the entire journal. Have it printed and share it to others who would like to get more information about Imorigen. Significant reduction in sickness. So anybody who is sick, the journal state it will be helpful. Decreased mortality. Mortality is death. And significant fewer sick days. So if one is sick in the hospital, if one would take the Imorigen formula based on this report, and there's the reference number 21, based on the report, it will help, right? But remember, it's not a medicine or a drug, right? And then if you look at the highlighted item, Imorigen contributes a versatile modulator of biological responses. That means it's everything, the functions of the body. Okay? The broad spectrum, meaning it's all over. The broad spectrum of Imorigen's biological activities, it can be said in summary that individual active Imorigen components, that's an ingredients seem to be distributed into different tissue compartments of the body where they interact directly with the cells there. Oh, you see, that says a lot, meaning the dietary ingredients of Imorigen will go to the different, let's say, functions of the body and then lead to homeostasis or balance. So I mentioned 5, but actually it's all over the body, right? That's why many are surprised when they start taking Imorigen. They're surprised that something good seems to develop within the body. And this is the answer, right? Okay, so this is now the summary of the journal. Okay, notice non-toxic, free of side effects, because we always receive the question, does it have side effects? If you take it at high amounts, will be toxic? Or the journal said it's non-toxic. It's free of side effects. The broad spectrum of the tissue extracts modulatory activity. So it's a very promising broad, let's say, modulation of biological responses. Translation, it's homeostasis. And I specifically mentioned 5. Okay? Now, we will now be focusing some of the references. This is one of the summary in the journal. And you will notice I highlighted A, B, C, D. It is showing the different mechanisms. Different. There are 4, right? Leading to overall regeneration and immunity. That's why Imorigen has been well named as Imorigen. Imo is for immunity. Regen is regeneration. Just to summarize the broad, let's say, biological support it will do for our body, right? And now we'll be mentioning some of the references. So there are, I think, 21 references. You can now see 1 to 13. And then from 13 to 21. Now, what I would like to take note is reference 21 to 24. These are additional reference or studies done on Imorigen, right? And we had been discussing that before. So just to emphasize that it is not hype. It is not just some health, let's say, fad. It is not just something to say it may help. No, it is based on basic science, and it is also based on the studies done by independent third-party resources. And they had it featured in peer-reviewed research studies. So that's the significance of this listing of the references. And I highlighted some of them. You can search it in Google and you will get more information. Next slide, please, Francis. And I think that's the last one. That's why our disclaimer is that this presentation is for private training and not for public dissemination. There are no medical claims, but for educational and illustration purposes alone. There is no attempt to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent disease. Health statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. If one has any medical condition, always seek the services of our licensed physician. Third-party research is not in any way endorsed by the manufacturer like Unirigen, Forever Healthy Products LLC, or her medical team. It is up to the recipient to decide its relevance in their life. Images used are credited to the owners and are used for educational purposes and not for commercial use. So God bless you. I hope you learned a lot in our brief discussion today. and probably we can entertain some few questions if you need some clarification. We discussed the 5 homeostatic functions, but there are a lot of them, so we praise God for that. Always point to God, who is the source of our life and health, and always take your Aborigen every day.